Assalamu alaikum. This podcast has been brought to you by SeekersGuidance, the global Islamic seminary. Help us spread the light of prophetic guidance to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Make a small donation at seekersguidance.org/donate. As little as $10 a month can help people find life-changing guidance.
So for the last question, do making short supplications in the obligatory prayer during sujood nullify it?
No, making dua would never break the prayer, unless you make dua for something that you cannot make in prayer. In some schools, that would break the prayer, right? But dua does not affect prayer. The only concern with making dua in the obligatory prayer, firstly, if you're the imam, the Prophet ﷺ commanded, "Man amma falyukhaffif." Whoever is the imam, let them keep their prayer brief, right? So one sticks to the to the emphasized sunnahs, and maybe the recommended when it comes to prostration. So the minimum emphasized sunnah is 3 tasbihs. Say Subhana Rabbil A'la 3 times. As an imam, you can do 5, maybe 7, right? But you don't go much beyond that. You don't go beyond that, right? So you wouldn't make dua unless it's something very brief, right? If you do make dua as an imam, make it very brief. You make 3 tasbihs, and if you make a very brief dua, that's fine, because it stays within the limits of being khafif, a light prostration. A follower can make dua after making the tasbihs, because the tasbihs are so emphasized in ruku' and sujood that some of the ulama said they're wajib. This is not the relied upon position in mainstream Islamic scholarship, but because the Prophet commanded to make the tasbih. Some of the literalist scholars, or the more literally inclined, said if he commanded it, it's wajib. It's not, it's a sunnah. So you make the 3 tasbihs, and then if you make dua behind the imam, that's fine. If you're praying alone, there's a lot of leeway to make dua. But we do see from the example of the Prophet ﷺ that generally he made more dua in his prostration, in his voluntary prayers, than in the obligatory prayers. Right? That most of what's related of the dua of the Prophet ﷺ in ruku' and sujood relates to his night prayers, his voluntary prayers, etc. So there's a lot of leeway in that. Right? One thing is, if one has religious concern, beware if you find yourself getting alarmed by many different issues. It's a good sign that you need to spend some time learning your religion. Right? Because being in a state where you're confused is not a good place to be. Because naturally, if you get religious, you will want to be cautious. You want to do what's pleasing to Allah. But the only way you can know what's pleasing to Allah is by seeking knowledge. Otherwise, you're in a bad situation. You don't know what's pleasing to Allah, so the likelihood is that you'll overdo things. And if you overdo things, you'll be overwhelmed. And that's not a good place to be. That's why, if you're trying to do the right thing in life, knowledge is mercy. And some people are afraid of seeking knowledge because they think it'll make things difficult. That's not true. Seeking knowledge will show you how easy and merciful and beautiful and clear the way of the Prophet ﷺ is. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna hadha dina yusr." Truly, this religion is ease. وَلَنْ يُشَادَّ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَ. And no one will make this religion difficult except that it'll overwhelm them. And then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَسَدِّدُوا. So remain committed. وَقَارِبُوا. Do the best you can. وَأَبْشِرُوا. And be of glad tidings. Right? And be of glad tidings. And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالْغَدْوَةِ. And seek assistance in the early mornings. وَالرَّوْحَةِ. And the late afternoons. وَشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الدُّلْجَةِ. And something of the depths of the night. Right? That a little that's done for Allah consistently goes a long, long way. Right? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that consistency and steadfastness, and grant us the facilitation to make the most of these 10 days of Dhul Hijjah that are days that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swore by their nights. And there are many of the ulama said that these nights are more virtuous than nights of Ramadan. But they are very blessed days and nights. And the best action that you can do is to renew your commitment to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. خَيْرُ مَا تَطْلُبُهُ مِنْهُ مَا هُوَ طَالِبُهُ مِنْكَ. The best of what you could seek from Allah is what He seeks from you, which is for you to return to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then to ask yourself the question, what best can I do in my life to fix my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because that's obligatory. Right? And fast as much as you can in these days. Pray as much as you can in these days. Reflect. Ask yourself the question, what can I do in these days that will best enable me to turn to Allah in ways that will be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What are the most displeasing things that I'm doing in my life? And get rid of them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remembering the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that مَن تَرَكَ شَيْئًا لِلَّهِ عَوَّضَهُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهُ. That whoever leaves anything for the sake of Allah, Allah will substitute it with better than it. That's the prophetic promise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala realize us in that reality. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Seekers Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Visit SeekersGuidance.org to access reliable Islamic knowledge taught by qualified teachers. We offer a wide range of courses, podcasts, articles, and a world-class answer service. Support us in spreading free, reliable Islamic knowledge to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Visit SeekersGuidance.org/donate and make a small monthly commitment today. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a similar reward." So don't forget to share this podcast and spread prophetic guidance.